Let's move on. Let's go to the player rating, starting off with Brig Fraser Forster. Sim gives him a 5. I gave him a 4. From the first minute, he passed the ball out to Mohamed Salah and you knew we were in for a long afternoon. I thought he made a number of saves throughout the game to keep the score, well, I say to keep the score respectable, but it wasn't respectable. I did felt like with a number of the goals he could have done better, but look, he did make a good number of saves during the game.
Yeah, I think he made some good saves, but I thought first goal, good header from Diaz. Does Vicario get closer to it? I think he's got a better shot at it. Second goal, I think he's slow to react. Again, Vicario might have saved that. Third goal, look, it's a 1-on-1. I'm not going to be too critical of it, but again, it goes through his legs. It's not like an amazing finish from Szoboszlai. Fourth goal, I'm not going to blame him too much. Fifth goal, not going to blame him too much. Sixth goal, it's a good finish by Diaz, but again, could Vicario have got closer to that? I think he could have. So I think it probably did. We did get punished a bit from having Forster in goal. There was that one moment as well where the ball gets played over the top and Forster comes rushing out. And then he thinks, oh, shit, I'm not going to get there. And then he goes running back into his goal. And lucky Diaz misses the lob. But again, if that's Vicario, he doesn't hesitate. He goes for it. And if he's good, he comes out. And if he gets there or not, he's coming to get it. You know what I mean? Doesn't hesitate like Forster did. So I think maybe last couple of games we're seeing maybe, as much as he's done well since he's first come in, last couple of games we're maybe seeing the difference between him and Vicario for sure, and what Vicario brings to us. But I don't think he was obviously the reason we lost. As much as he could have done better with some gols.
Pedro Porro up next. Sim gives him a 4. I gave him a 2. I thought another shocking display from Pedro, to be honest. I thought particularly in the first half, they were just picking balls over the top of his head and he couldn't handle it, targeting that side of the pitch. I thought he was nowhere to be seen for a lot of big moments in the game. And it's clear to see this guy just needs a prolonged rest. And the more times we play him, I genuinely believe the more risk of injury he is as well. So we just need to take him out of the firing line ASAP. And I've been saying this for weeks. Definitely.
Poor day as well. I thought on the ball, he did play some, especially in the first half. He was the only one playing some really nice passes out to Decky, and also he played some really nice passes to Solanke in the second half as well, and actually, put us in some sort of situation where we might be able to hurt Liverpool. So I thought on the ball, he was actually probably our most creative player on the ball, but off the ball, massively struggled. There was one moment which really, probably set the tone for his performance, where Trent plays a long raking ball and he's favourite to it to get the ball. He takes it down and just allows Luis Diaz to bully him off the ball, and then allows Luis Diaz to get past him as well. And all of a sudden, Liverpool, from a moment where we should have been in control of the situation, created a chance. And Porro, that shows to me how much he was lacking when it comes to physicality. Because I think a fully fit, fresh Porro deals with that situation, and because of him running on empty, he just couldn't deal with it, and just Diaz was fresher than him, got to the ball first and took it past him, and that was set the tone for a lot of his performance yesterday, especially defensively. So very much struggled, especially in one-on-ones, but I actually thought on the ball he was probably our most creative player.
Radu Dragusin up next. Sim gives him a 4. I gave him a 2. Worst display in recent weeks for him. I thought he was really poor. Let Diaz get in behind him, was poor aerially, which is uncharacteristic for him. And I thought on the ball, he was just winding me up time and time again. There was one time he got the ball and he just played like some hopeless ball down the line. And I think it ended up going back to the Liverpool defence or even going out for a goal kick or something. But he was just hopeless on the ball yesterday. Sometimes when we just needed that out ball from Radu, just wasn't there.
Definitely. The story of the game, from his stats, you can see 1 out of 11 long balls completed. That goes to show you how poor his passing was. If that's Romero, if that's even other players, I think that's not going to be the case. Their passing ability is much better, and his one absolutely got exposed. Gravenberch has been quoted after the game saying they targeted him when the ball came to Dragusin. He was a pressing trigger, and it completely worked for them. And as well, what I was very much disappointed with Dragusin is his aerial ability. Got dominated by Szoboszlai for that third goal, which you could not allow that to happen with the situation we were in. You just can't lose that header, and he did. Even if you got to make a foul, you do it. You don't allow Szoboszlai to win that header. And I thought there were some moments where they scored where he couldn't really do much about, where he was just completely overrun. But as well, what really worried me was, and I don't know if it's him just playing every game at the moment, but there was many occasions where you just you see him running back towards his own goal, and he just doesn't have the pace to catch up with some of these Liverpool forwards. They had the run on him, and they're just running away from him, and he just couldn't get near them. And is that because he's not fast enough to play in this high line? Is that because he's playing every game at the moment and every minute, and he's also running on empty? Is that the case? Well, whatever it is, he was completely out on his feet yesterday, and he really struggled. He did have to make some good clearances and make some good tackles and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, he got completely done.
Archie Gray, 5s all round for Archie. Look, we said it before the game. This is going to be a massive test for him, coming up against the best team in the league, the best right winger, in my opinion, of all time in the Premier League. And look, he did get found out, but I think he still was a lot better than what we saw from Dragusin and Porro on the right hand side. And look, I thought he put in a lot of good challenges and blocks and stuff, but look, he was too weak at the end of the day, and this is what you get when you have to play a centre mid, 18-year-old centre mid, in his second year in professional football at centre back against this kind of opposition.
Yeah, and today was the reality check. Not reality check, because I think it was not a surprise, but obviously he's done really well to step in that position over the last 3 games, and credit to him. I'm not taking away from that how well he's done, but today was always going to be a step too far for him, and that's what proved. They bullied him, they targeted him as well at some occasions. I think Szoboszlai stuck to him on a few occasions in the box and completely did him. He was weak in the box. Salah I think was licking his lips at the prospect of coming up against him and got the better of him a couple of times. Look, to be fair to him, I thought on the ball a lot better than Dragusin, and played some really nice passes at times out the back, and credit to him, was brave enough to do that. And as well, he made some really good, on a couple of occasions, some really good last-ditch defending to make sure we didn't concede. And he got really unlucky, I think, on the 4th goal, where he made a couple of last-ditch blocks before it fell to Salah. So tried his best, but at the end of the day, it felt like it was a teenager playing in that position, a very inexperienced player who couldn't really live with what Liverpool threw at him, and Liverpool completely exposed him. And it's not to say he's a bad player or anything like that, but that was the reality of playing an 18-year-old midfielder at centre-back, and it was a game too far for him. Again, he's done so well the last few games to step in and get us in a position where we can get results, but he just couldn't do it in this game.
Jed Spence, 6s all round for Spence, and I felt like he was the one that came out with the most credit in that back line in a game that we conceded 9 big chances and 6 goals. But Spence, I felt like at times did deal with Salah fairly well, but having said that, there were a couple of moments where he was just a bit too rash in his picking up, and he was just rushing around and following the ball a bit too much. And also he just let Trent just have acres of space time after time after time. So it wasn't the greatest display from Spence, but I do feel like he's the one that comes out with the most credit, and he's the one that did the most good things in that back line.
Yeah, I think he clearly was the freshest, I think, in that back line. You could tell that as well. I think he won 7 of his 10 duels. He made 5 tackles. He was involved in a lot of defensive duels, and I think he did quite well. Obviously Salah ended up the game with 2 goals and 2 assists, so I can't say he kept Salah quiet, but I think when Salah was up against him one-on-one, he did quite well, and he wasn't. Salah didn't beat him individually, but obviously Salah's such a clever player. He moved inside and just made sure that he was finding an advantage somehow. He always does that, and so I think it's more credit to Salah than Spence doing badly as to why Salah came up with all these goal contributions. But I think Spence in general did okay. Again, when he goes forward on the left-hand side, he's always having to cut in, and he just doesn't look as comfortable, I feel, than when he's on his right side, where he can just go down the line and get cutbacks and things like that. I think being on his left foot, he's not as comfortable, and I don't think he affects the game as much going forward when he's on that left-hand side. But I think defensively, I can say he did okay. We could see the 6 goals, but I think individually, like when he was in those one-on-one moments, he did all right. But as a unit, he didn't get close enough to Trent for that first goal, and he still got exposed, and that comes with experience. That comes with for that second goal as well, he bumped into Gray and led to the clearance not being as good as it could have been. So definitely wasn't a perfect game from him by any stretch, and he still had his faults, but still, I didn't look at that game thinking he was out of place playing in a Premier League team.
Oh, so, definitely not. He was the one that looked like he was most at home in that back line out of the 4. To be honest,
but not to say I think he had a particularly amazing game.
Yeah. Let's move on to Yves Bissouma. Sim gives him a 5. I gave him a 3. And on the back of a really positive display on Thursday, I thought it was back to like what we've been seeing over the past couple of games before that for Bissouma. I thought, there was a gaping hole in the middle of the park. I thought he got dominated by his Liverpool counterparts. I thought he lost the ball in a number of occasions where, we just needed some calm on the ball and to really spread the play and to keep it, even just to keep it nice and simple. And I thought he failed to do that. And I thought as the game progressed, he was just weaning in aggression.
Yeah, I think in that first half, it wasn't so bad, albeit he did give the ball away really badly right near the beginning of the game, and it was a sloppy ball. I thought off the ball, he did make some good challenges, and he was looking like he was being aggressive, and I was like, okay, not too bad. But look, Liverpool, that midfield three, they're so intense, so aggressive. They've got so much physicality that you have to be really at the top of your game to keep them quiet. And he wasn't at the top of his game yesterday, Bissouma, unfortunately. He couldn't follow up what was a really positive display against United with an equally good display. I don't think he was the worst of the three. I think there was some good stuff in there from him. But unfortunately, I think Liverpool's midfield three is probably the most intense in the league. And I think especially he didn't have the help that he could have had as well, but individually just couldn't really compete as much. But I did think there was some good stuff in there from Bissouma. I don't think it was all bad. I don't think it was as bad as we've seen him, but he struggled to compete with those three, I think that's fair to say.
Pape Matar Sarr, Sim gives him a 4, I gave him a 5. I felt like in the first half he was the only one with the ability to win the ball in the middle of the park and actually drive through the centre of the park and try and look to make stuff happen and have a bit of energy levels about him. I thought he was winning the majority of his duels, but having said that, he was still part of a midfield that got completely dominated. So it wasn't a great display or a good display by any stretch of the imagination, but I thought it was a lot better than what we saw from Bissouma.
I thought Bissouma was a bit better than him, to be honest, albeit I thought Sarr, he had a couple of shots, didn't he, in that first half. One of them was a decent effort, which Maddison easily hang on to, and the other one flashed wide. So he was trying to get forward. I thought he got bypassed too easily. Again, it's no surprise. Sarr is a player that you expect to be running for 90 minutes and having all that boundless energy, and the fact that he was the one that got taken off on the hour shows to me that he was clearly running on empty. You never expect someone like Sarr to be taken off on the hour if he's fully there. Again, he's playing a lot of football of late, and again, he's struggling to really find that extra bit of energy and running power. I think at times he was okay, but I thought on the ball, not great. Couldn't really compete against his Liverpool side. Lost the ball very easily, and off the ball, wasn't that same Sarr we've seen.
James Maddison up next, 5s all round for Madders. I mean, he was pretty much non-existent in the first half until he got that goal. However, he was getting on the ball and trying to make stuff happen, but I felt like there were just no runners off him. There was no movement around him, and it made his job really hard, to be honest. So I thought like he was looking positive, but the majority of times he got the ball, literally, he was just isolated every single time.
Yeah, it was difficult for him. He kept getting fouled as well. I think there was a few good tactical fouls there by Liverpool on him to make sure he wasn't progressing. But I think when Maddison is at his best, when he's getting the ball into feet and turning his man and gaining those kind of advantages in those one-on-one situations. And again, Liverpool just didn't allow him to do that. Liverpool were just on him like a rash every time he got the ball. And when he's nullified like that, it's difficult for him to impact the game. He did get his goal, good finish, and what was that, his 7th goal of the season? In the first half of the season, that's a pretty good total. So fair play for that. And it was a good finish as well on the edge of the box. He got to take it quickly. Wasn't an easy shot that, and he was able to bend it round the defender and past Alisson. Alisson didn't even move. So good finish from Maddison, but I think struggled in the duels. It was no surprise to me that he was taken off on the hour, just because him being there when he's not the kind of player who is going to stem the tide, really, when it comes to a midfield three like Liverpool completely dominating in the middle. You're going to need a bit more physicality. So it's no surprise that he put Decky in there. This is what I wanted from the start, really. Get Decky in the middle, because we're going to need his physicality, but he didn't do that from the start. But Maddison, look, credit where it's due, he did get a nice goal, and for a moment, anyway, a brief moment, it looked like it might drag us back into the game, but it wasn't to be.
Decky up next, 6s all round. I thought when he was on the right wing, he couldn't make any sort of impact in the game. When he did get the ball, I thought he lost it for the majority of times. But I felt like when we did make the changes with half an hour to go in the middle of the park, he really started to strut his stuff. He got his goal. Brilliant finish, by the way, with the volley. And he was definitely our best player for that last half an hour. Yeah,
and obviously in the first half, he was the only one running beyond Robertson, trying to get in behind him and cause a few problems, but wasn't able to do it. I thought for that first 15 minutes in the second half, wasn't really involved in the game. But once he moved into the centre, I think he became alive, and all of a sudden, when you saw the Decky that we've been seeing for a lot of this season, they all of a sudden found it a lot more difficult to deal with him. He was shrugging people off. He was he got fouled, I think, like 4 times. They were really struggling to contain him. Got a really nice goal with the volley, as you say. That's 5 in a row for him now, and all of a sudden, he was starting to impact the game. And obviously, it was enough to drag us back into it, but at least it showed how good he can be and how good he has been this season. So I think he ended the game positively for him.
Big Dom Solanke, Sim gives him a 5, I gave him a 6. Again, for the first hour, pretty much non-existent. Was all over the park. He was dropping deep. He was trying to win the ball back and make it a bit compact in the middle, but it wasn't to be. For the last half an hour, when Brennan came on, he ends the game with a goal and an assist, so 2 goal contributions, and really of pretty good quality as well. So, I mean, the energy levels did kind of wean in the last 10 minutes from him, but look, you know what you're going to get with Dom Solanke. He's going to work really hard. He's not going to let the game give up, and I felt like in that last half an hour he was pivotal to that minor Spurs fight back. Yeah,
I actually agree with that. Maybe a 5 was a bit harsh, but I think for the first hour, as you say, he was anonymous, couldn't get involved in the game. He was trying to, a lot of the time he was pressing by himself as well. No one was backing him up and they were just easily bypassing him. He was trying his best to help out the team, but it was very, very difficult for him. But then in that last half an hour, as you said, I think him and Decky were the ones dragging us forward and dragging us back into that game. And it was actually a really good finish, underrated, because it was a good header by Johnson, but he's got to turn on Van Dijk, outmuscle him, turn and swivel and volley. I know he was close to the goal, but he's still got to time that right. And it was actually a really nice finish. It was like 6 Premier League goals now for him, so hopefully I think in all competitions as well, I think he's 13 now for, I think 11 or 12, so starting to get trot up those goals. And at that moment as well, 5-3 with 10 minutes to go, at least you're trying to think, can we drag us back in that game? Can he make life difficult? And then they went and scored straight away. But I think Solanke was a big part of that team trying to drag us forward in that last stage of the game. And he was one getting on the ball and trying to take the game to Liverpool. Had a few efforts, but wasn't enough at the end of the day. But at least he tried to make life difficult for them in that last half an hour.
Yeah, Sonny, falls all round for Sonny, unfortunately. And I thought it was a poor display from him. There was a number of times on the left-hand side where he squared up one-on-one with his defender and he tried to take it round him and he just couldn't beat his man for love nor money. It was really frustrating watching him. Wasn't really getting in those goal-scoring and shooting opportunities, which we've seen him get him a lot in the past couple of weeks. So I thought they dealt with Sonny really well and he couldn't make an impact in the game.
Yeah, Sonny struggled. His game was... Not overshadowed, but whenever he got a corner, everyone was shouting "shoot," which was a funny moment.
I think he did try it once.
There was, and Alisson dealt with it, unfortunately. But I don't know if he tried it, but he definitely was a similar kind of delivery to the one against United. He got the ball a few times on that left-hand side, struggled badly, to be honest, to impact. I thought as well, for the first goal, can he get quicker to Trent in that moment, try and stop that cross? He just wasn't able to do it. He was trying to encourage the team to, not let their heads drop after each goal being conceded, but it got obviously more tough and tough with each goal that went in. But he didn't seem to have the ability to take Trent on and really have the beating of him. And a lot of times as well, he, again, similar to Decky on the right, he was isolated, no one near him. He didn't have the support to kind of play those quick interchanges and try and find those advantages. There was a couple of times, I think, in the first half, he got quite close to Dom and there was a couple of interchanges, but it came to nothing in the end. But yeah, there was one time he got to the byline and played a ball across the face of goal, but no one was there. But he just struggled to really consistently take on Trent and impact the game, and he was, marked out the game, to be honest.
Lucas Bergvall, who came on, with half an hour to go, I think. Sim gives him a 6, I gave him a 5. I thought he did all right. I mean, he definitely added a bit more legs for us in the middle of the park. He was getting on the ball, looking positive on the ball, but still didn't really provide too much quality.
I think he did all right, actually. Another positive cameo for me. I thought again he was able to progress the ball a bit, have a bit of calm and composure. Played that nice ball into Brennan for the third goal as well. So he was involved in that moment. True. And I think he just added a bit more legs. Obviously, we still conceded 2 goals while he was on the pitch, so he still wasn't good enough. But at least he provided a bit of energy, a bit of composure, and a bit of quality on the ball to get the ball forward into dangerous areas. And it led to, obviously, Spurs getting a couple of goals. But, I thought it was a positive cameo, but, too little, too late.
Brennan Johnson.
And he got his customary booking as well.
Yeah,
You
could see it was coming as well.
Customary
You could see it was coming. He made a few fouls, I think, on the day as well. But Brennan Johnson, last player that we're going to rate, 6 all round for him. And I thought he came on again, another player, and that moment in time added a bit more energy, started someone to really push the agenda for us. He grabs himself an assist, could have had a goal as well with a shot that he had, ended up being on target. But yeah, he provided something for us, but it was a little too late.
Yeah. Didn't really hurt them when he got on the ball, but it was more his off the ball stuff which hurt him, which hurt Liverpool a bit, and he did cause them a bit of trouble. Obviously got the assist, I would say, lovely cushioned header to Dom, had to bully Robertson for that moment and did well to do that, so good header. And he had that moment where the ball falls to him in the box, and it's a good effort, but it was a really good save from Maddison. If that goes in, what would it have been, 5-4 then, or was it, I don't know when that moment was.
What, if Brennan scored?
Yeah,
I think it would have been 5-4.
5-4.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that would have made things very interesting if that goes. No, I think it would have been 6-4.
You sure?
Yeah, I think because there
maybe.
was only a minute between us going 5-3 and them scoring, so maybe it would have been 6-4 if he goes.
Yeah, you're right. It was 2 minutes.
Yeah, so it would have been 6-4, but still, maybe again makes it a little bit more difficult for Liverpool at that point if that goes in. But of course, we'll probably never get him back in. But at least he made some sort of an impact to try to get us back in the game. But decent cameo from him. But again, yeah, can't exactly say he nearly got us back in the game.
And Ange Postecoglou, 4s all round for Ange. And look, I think that obviously I do feel for him a bit at the moment, Ange Postecoglou, with the amount of injuries that he has, and the reality is that we do need to keep playing the same players. But there was a case yesterday to start Brennan Johnson. I don't understand why he didn't start Brennan. Like, he was right there. He hasn't started for the last 2 games. Surely he's more fresh than anyone that started on the pitch yesterday. So it made no sense to not start Brennan yesterday. A couple of other, you look at Bergvall and players like Reguilon. I can understand why they didn't play, but maybe you should be going for the more fresher legs at this moment in time. When you look at the players, how they're struggling so much on the pitch. And when you see the players struggling so much, surely maybe you should change up the philosophy and tactics just to stem the tide a little bit. Because when you're coming up against a team like this, if you stick to your philosophy with the tired legs that you have on top of that, you're going to get absolutely eaten alive. And that's exactly what happened. So I think Ange, as much as I commend him sometimes for persisting with his style of play, there are certain situations where you do need to change it up a bit and have a bit more flexibility, and he didn't show that yesterday. And also, I felt the changes need to happen at half-time, and he waited till the game was completely gone at 4-1 down to make the changes.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say Ange was dealt a bad hand yesterday, but it's also fair to say he played that bad hand badly, and that is what happened. I think there's no getting away from it. We were completely opened up, and it was a complete shit show from start to finish, and Ange couldn't do anything to stem the tide. I do kind of feel like yesterday he was damned if he does, damned if he doesn't. I don't think there's a world really where we get a result out of that game, whatever he does, with how good Liverpool are right now, and how kind of they're such effective in that final third. And as well, the fact that they rely so heavily on sharpness and physicality and intensity, and that's just something that was severely lacking yesterday, was something that there was, if we stuck to the way we were playing, it was always going to be very difficult to do anything. Obviously, the way we opened up and the way we were completely battered. Look, Ange, that is definitely on Ange, because that was a consequence of the way we played, for sure. But I also feel like I understand what he tried to do. He felt like we train and play a certain way, and just ripping that up for one game and going in different ways isn't necessarily going to get us a result, and isn't going to magically mean that we're much better. Maybe we play in a low block, and Gray still gets found out because we're in a low block, and all of a sudden we're inviting pressure onto us. And I think he was hamstrung yesterday. He was probably managing with 2 hands tied behind his back, but could he have done a few things to try and alleviate a bit of pressure, as you say, try and add a bit of freshness, try and add Brennan in, maybe even start Bergvall. I mean, there are arguments for it, but I also feel for him because I just don't know what he could have done to get a result in that game. I think it was inevitable. We were probably going to lose at the end of the day. So that's unfortunate. I think once again, as I've said, once we get some players back and we can rotate a bit and get a bit of freshness in this team, I think we'll start to see results, especially performances. I think there's never guaranteed results improve, but definitely performances will start to improve. I'm confident of that. But at the moment, it's difficult.
You say you understand, him persisting with those tactics, but do you think it's the right course of action?
In that particular game, was it the right course of action to try and get a result? No, but in the context of what he's trying to do, I can understand it. I can understand it. And I think, again, he's trying to implement something into this team. And he's got young players to contend with, very young players in the squad. He's got Spence, right, playing his second game in a Premier League. He's got he's got Gray, having his second or third start in the Premier League. He's trying to get them up to speed with how we're playing, and just switching up our tactics for this game isn't going to help them get up to speed with that. He wants them to play how we train, and it cost us in this game badly. And of course, he has to take responsibility for that. But his philosophy is short-term pain for long-term gain. That's what he's trying to do, and I'm willing to stick with it.
Is one game really going to change like the long-term gain? Like if you just try and protect your defence for one game against the best team in the league, is that really going to change the long-term picture for Ange Postecoglou?
But his point is we're probably not going to win anyway, even if we change it. So you might as well stick with it.
I don't know. I think he probably thinks we had a chance of getting a result yesterday in his mind.
Well, he thinks the best chance of us hurting Liverpool and getting goals is playing that way. Now, we got 3 goals against the best team in the league. Yeah, I know it was 5-1 and you could say they dropped off, but we still had to score the goals. We still got 3 goals against them. I think that's a fifth of their goals conceded they got yesterday. So that was his way of thinking. Obviously, it meant we conceded 6, but it shows we could still score goals against them. I guess that would be his argument. His argument would be that was the best chance we had to try and lay a glove on them and try and win the game. Not just try and get a draw. He could have changed it. He could have gone low block. He could have parked the bus. He could have dropped deeper. I mean, I look at the average position. It seemed we did drop a bit deeper than we usually do. Anyway, and look, to be fair, you look at the goals we conceded. Right, first goal. That's not a consequence of us going gung-ho. We were set in position there. That was just Diaz running off the back of Dragusin. Second goal, was that a case of, again, was that because we went gung-ho? Or was that because Szoboszlai bullied Gray and Spence? Even some of the chances we conceded, that wasn't a case of because we was again the third goal. That's probably because we went for it a bit and went a bit gung ho. But the first 2 goals weren't necessarily because of that. I think the fourth and fifth goal, I agree with you. That's because we were too open, but we're losing and we're trying to get back in the game. So he obviously probably puts more risk. And again, that 4th goal comes where Porro's in a good position, isn't he? And if he gets found in that position, instead of we lose the ball, then maybe we have a chance. But that's the risk versus reward when you're trying to get back in the game. When you're trying to get back in the game at 3-1, he's not a manager to kind of. He's going to go for it. He's going to throw risk. And that's why you saw Porro in that position at 3-1 down to try and get back in the game. And ended up, we lost the ball and it went 4-1, right? But again, for the first 2 goals that we conceded, I don't think it's because we were gung-ho why we conceded them.
I mean, the back 4 might have been in position, but I mean, they had no help whatsoever. They had no help from their counterparts in the team, and it wasn't it wasn't just the goals we conceded. We conceded 9 big chances throughout the game,
and a lot of them were in the second half. I mean, we conceded I think 4 in the first half, but again, it was not because when I look at the chart, a lot of the chances we conceded.
SofaScore actually says we conceded 11 big chances,
so it's gone up.
11.
It's gone up now.
4 in the first half and 7 in the second half.
Yeah, so a lot of them was when we were, in the second half when we're chasing a losing position, aren't we? Look, obviously in the first half as well, we were well beaten. We were playing against a team that were better than us. But again, you look at some of the goals we conceded. It wasn't because we caught high up the pitch while we conceded them in that first half when the game state is even, right? That wasn't why we conceded those goals, in my opinion. We conceded them because the back line just wasn't up to it. We couldn't contain Liverpool. You look at, in terms of what you say, they had no help. That first goal, were Spence and Son caught up the pitch? No, they were there, right? They just couldn't get close to them. So it wasn't because it was gung-ho and everyone was caught up the pitch and Liverpool had the freedom of our area. It was because whether it was a physical issue or a personnel issue, Son couldn't get close to Trent, and Dragusin and Gray couldn't handle Diaz in the box. Again, you look at the second goal, we had players in the box. Again, it wasn't because everyone was caught up the pitch we conceded that goal. We had players in the box, but Szoboszlai bullied Gray because he's an 18-year-old midfielder playing at centre back. He got bullied for that goal, and Forster couldn't react quicker. So, again, yes, he could have changed things and he could have done something differently. And maybe in that second half, do we concede less chances if he goes for damage limitation instead of going for goals and try and get back in the game? Yeah, but that's how he decided to go, and that's why we got 2 goals as well, as much as why we conceded all those 2 chances. So hopefully, if we had either a fresher 11 or more of our players back, it could have been a bit different. We might have still lost the game, but it wouldn't have been that embarrassing. But I can understand him.
All right, well, that is our player ratings from the 6-3 loss to Liverpool.